Hello. Have you ever looked at someone who seems to excel effortlessly at everything they do? Whether it's learning a new skill, navigating a complex problem, or simply being resilient in the face of a challenge. And have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I were more like that, or they were just born with it? I could never do that. If so, you're not alone. That feeling of being stuck, of having a limit on your potential, is one of the most common human experiences. It's a quiet voice in the back of our minds telling us that our abilities are fixed, that who we are today is who we will always be.
But what if I told you that this voice is lying? What if your potential isn't set in stone, but is in fact a vast open landscape just waiting for you to explore it? The difference between those who believe their abilities are limited and those who seem to grow constantly isn't a matter of innate talent. It is, in its most profound and fundamental sense, a matter of mindset. And this isn't just some feel-good philosophy. It is a measurable scientific truth rooted in the very structure of your brain. There are two primary ways people view their abilities, their intelligence, and their potential. The first is what researchers call a fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, you believe that your qualities, your intelligence, your talents, your personality are carved in stone. You either have what it takes or you don't. When you face a challenge in this mindset, it's not an opportunity to learn, but a terrifying threat. A setback feels like a personal failure, a definitive judgment on your worth. This is the mindset that makes you say, I'm just not a math person, or I'm bad at public speaking, and then stop trying. It's a mindset that leads to a fear of failure, a desire to avoid new challenges, and a tendency to give up when things get difficult. The other way of viewing the world is through a growth mindset. In a growth mindset, you believe that your qualities can be developed and cultivated through effort, persistence, and good strategy. You see challenges not as threats, but as exciting opportunities to learn and grow. When you fail, you don't see it as a definitive statement about your abilities, but as a temporary setback, a chance to pivot, to try a new approach, and to learn from your mistake. This is the mindset of an athlete who trains relentlessly, a musician who practices for thousands of hours, or an entrepreneur who sees every failed business as a stepping stone to a successful one. For a long time, we thought the difference between these two mindsets was purely psychological. But thanks to incredible advances in neuroscience, we now know that it is much, much more than that. The way you think about your abilities is not just an idea in your head. It is physically shaping the very wiring of your brain. The scientific foundation for the growth mindset is a concept known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's extraordinary ability to change and adapt throughout your entire life. For centuries, we believed that the brain was a static organ. We thought that once you reached a certain age, your brain was a finished product, like a computer with a fixed set of hardware. But modern science has shattered that myth. We now know that your brain is more like a dynamic, ever-changing supercomputer that is constantly rewiring itself in response to your thoughts, your actions, and your environment. Think of your brain as a vast, dense forest. The neurons are the trees, and the connections between them, the neural pathways, are the pathways you create by walking through the forest. When you learn a new skill, you are essentially carving a new path in that forest. The more you practice that skill, the more you travel down that path, the deeper and more defined that path becomes. It becomes a superhighway of information. This is why things that were once incredibly difficult, like learning to ride a bike or playing a new song on the guitar, eventually become second nature. You have literally built a neural superhighway for that skill. On the other hand, when you believe you can't learn something, you don't even try to carve a new path. You stay on the old familiar trails and the forest around you remains unchanged. The fixed mindset, in a very real sense, is a state of neural stagnation. It is a refusal to create new pathways, to make new connections, and to allow your brain to grow. The growth mindset, however, is a state of active neural creation. It is the conscious decision to pick up a tool and start carving, to embark on the journey of learning and adaptation. And the more you practice this mindset, the more your brain becomes accustomed to this process, making it easier to learn and grow with each new challenge. Understanding neuroplasticity and its link to mindset is the key to unlocking your full potential. You are not a finished product. You are not defined by your past failures or your current limitation.
You are at this very moment in possession of the most powerful tool for change in the known universe, a brain that is designed to grow. And in the next part of this video, we're going to dive into the practical, actionable steps you can take to harness this incredible power and begin consciously rewiring your brain for success. Now that we understand the science, let's get to the practice. How do you go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? It's not a magical overnight transformation. It's a conscious, deliberate choice, a habit that you build one small step at a time. The first step is to simply listen to the inner voice in your head. When you face a challenge or a setback, what does that voice say? Does it say you're not good enough? You're going to fail? What's the point of even trying? This is the voice of your fixed mindset. Your first and most important job is not to silence this voice, but to simply acknowledge it. To say to yourself, okay, that's my fixed mindset talking. But that's not the whole story. Just by noticing that voice, you create a separation between your identity and your mindset. You realize that the thought is not a fact. The second and perhaps most powerful mind hack is a single word, yet. The brilliant psychologist Carol Dweck, who pioneered the research on growth mindset, found that this small word can completely change your perspective. When you find yourself thinking, I can't do this, add the word yet. I can't do this yet. I'm not a good public speaker yet. I don't know how to code yet. The word yet instantly reframes a statement of limitation into a statement of potential. It transforms a dead end into a launching pad. It's a simple linguistic trick, but it signals to your brain that this is not the end of the story. It tells your brain this is a solvable problem. It's just a matter of time and effort. Next, you need to actively seek out and embrace challenges. A fixed mindset tells you to avoid challenges because they might expose a weakness. A growth mindset says, bring it on. This isn't about being reckless or overcommitting. It's about consciously choosing to do things that make you a little uncomfortable. Learning a new language, taking a dance class, trying to solve a puzzle that's just beyond your current skill level. When you do this, you are literally giving your brain the raw material it needs to grow. You are forcing it to build new neural pathways. It's in those moments of struggle, when your brain is working hard to figure something out, that new connections are being formed. The harder you work, the more you struggle, the more myelin your brain produces. Myelin is a fatty substance that wraps around your neural connections, acting like insulation on electrical wire. The more you use a particular pathway, the more myelin it gets, and the faster and more efficient the connection becomes. So the effort itself is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of a brain that is actively getting stronger. And speaking of effort, a core part of the growth mindset is redefining what success looks like. In a fixed mindset, success is about the final result, and effort is a bad thing. If you had to work hard, it means you weren't smart enough. But in a growth mindset, effort is the very essence of success. You praise the process, not just the outcome. You say to yourself, I'm proud of how hard I worked on that. Even if the result wasn't perfect, you celebrate the courage it took to try, the resilience it took to keep going, and the strategies you learned along the way. When you praise the process, you are teaching your brain to value learning over perfection.
We have to talk about how we handle failure. For someone with a fixed mindset, failure is a definitive and crushing blow. But for someone with a growth mindset, failure is just information. It's data. It's an invaluable lesson. When you fail, a growth mindset doesn't say, I'm a failure. It says, what can I learn from this? What went wrong? What can I do differently next time? This simple shift in perspective is incredibly powerful. It turns a moment of pain into a moment of learning. And science shows us that the brain actually works differently after a mistake. It is more receptive to learning, and the neural pathways for correct information are strengthened. So failure is not the end of the road. It's a key part of the map. It's your brain's most effective feedback loop. And when you embrace it, you are giving your brain exactly what it needs to grow and adapt.
The truth is, you are the architect of your own mind. The neuroplasticity of your brain gives you a power that was once thought to be impossible. The power to actively and consciously shape your own intelligence, your own abilities, and your own future. It's not about finding a magic bullet or a shortcut. It's about understanding the science, making a choice, and doing the work. It's about choosing to say, I can't do this yet. Now let's take this from theory to reality.
how does this mindset translate to actual, tangible change in your life? Think of your mindset as the operating system for your brain. The fixed mindset is an old, outdated version that crashes every time it encounters a new challenge. The growth mindset is the latest update, constantly downloading new information and adapting to new situations. This upgrade isn't just about feeling better about yourself. It's about a measurable compounding effect that touches every part of your life. Take your career, for example. A fixed mindset sees a new technology at work and thinks, I'm too old to learn that, or that's a job for someone else. The result? They stagnate, they become obsolete, and they are eventually left behind. But a person with a growth mindset sees that same new technology and thinks, this is an opportunity to add a new skill to my toolbox. They embrace the learning curve. They ask for help. They put in the effort. And because of that simple choice, they become more valuable, more resilient, and more promotable. The skills they gain today become the foundation for a career of lifelong learning and advancement. This isn't just theory. Companies around the world are now actively seeking to hire for a growth mindset because they know it's a key predictor of long-term success. This applies just as powerfully to your relationships. In a fixed mindset, you might believe that a relationship is either meant to be or it's not. When problems arise, you see them as definitive proof that the relationship is flawed. But a growth mindset views relationships as living, breathing things that require constant care and attention. When a conflict arises, you don't say, we always fight. You say, how can we learn to communicate better? You see disagreements as opportunities to build deeper understanding and trust. A growth mindset allows you to work through challenges, to forgive, and to adapt, transforming a relationship from a static, fragile thing into a dynamic and unbreakable partnership. And finally, consider your personal goals. Whether it's losing weight, learning a new instrument, or running a marathon, a fixed mindset will be derailed by the first setback. I ate a cookie. I'm a failure. Or I can't play that song perfectly. I'll never be good at this. But a growth mindset is completely different. It understands that progress is not a straight line. It acknowledges the setback, but it doesn't let it define the outcome. You say, I ate a cookie, but I'm still committed to my health. I'll get back on track tomorrow. You say, I can't play this song perfectly yet, but I'm going to keep practicing. This mindset allows you to show yourself compassion, to get back up after falling, and to celebrate the small, consistent wins that ultimately lead to massive, life-changing results. Of course, this isn't always easy. There will be days when that fixed mindset voice is loud and clear. It's during those moments of doubt that you need to tap into the very core of your why. Why did you start this journey? What is the purpose behind your goal? Reconnecting with that deep-seated motivation can be the fuel you need to push through a tough day. And remember to celebrate the small victory. Every time you choose to say yet, every time you embrace a challenge, every time you learn from a mistake, you are literally strengthening the neural pathways of your growth mindset. You are making your brain superhighway for growth even faster and more efficient. So take a moment to acknowledge that win. The fixed mindset is a prison of our own making. A cell built with walls of I can'ts and I'm nots. The growth mindset is the key. The neuroplasticity of your brain is not just a scientific fact, it is a gift. It is the proof that you are not trapped. You are the architect of your own mind. It's not about finding a magic bullet or a shortcut. It's about understanding the science, making a choice, and doing the work. It's about choosing to say, I can't do this yet. This brings us to a crucial element that can either accelerate your growth or hold you back: your environment. No matter how committed you are to your personal journey, the people you surround yourself with have an enormous impact on your mindset. A fixed mindset can be contagious. If you are constantly around people who complain about their lack of talent, who are afraid to try new things, and who see failure as a personal flaw, it becomes incredibly difficult to maintain your own belief in growth. Their beliefs can seep into your own, like a slow-acting poison. Conversely, a growth mindset is just as contagious, perhaps even more so. When you surround yourself with people who are curious, who celebrate effort, who see setbacks as temporary, and who are constantly learning and evolving, it becomes a powerful, positive feedback loop. You'll find yourself inspired to take on new challenges, encouraged to learn from your mistakes, and supported in your journey. Your tribe becomes your fuel, so take a moment to look at your inner circle. Are the people in your life lifting you up, or are they holding you down? Are they encouraging your growth, or are they feeding your fixed mindset? You don't have to cut people out of your life entirely, but you can consciously choose to spend more time with those who inspire you and less time with those who drain you.
This leads to the next step: finding and studying your role models. A fixed mindset looks at a successful person and says, they were just born that way. I could never do what they did. But a growth mindset looks at that same person and says, how did they do it? What did their process look like? What challenges did they overcome? When you do this, you begin to see that their success wasn't a matter of magic. It was a matter of relentless effort, deliberate practice, and a willingness to learn from their failures. Don't just celebrate their wins. Study their struggles. Look at the people who have achieved the things you want to achieve, and then seek to understand their journey, the long hours, the countless rejections, the mistakes they made along the way. That is where the real lesson is. And as you embark on this journey, it's important to remember that the greatest reward is not the final outcome. It's the process itself. The joy of a growth mindset isn't just in reaching your goals. It's in the pure, unadulterated satisfaction of learning, growing, and becoming more capable. It's the feeling of a new neural pathway being formed. It's the satisfaction of solving a problem you thought was impossible. It's the quiet sense of pride that comes from doing something hard and not giving up. This is a form of intrinsic motivation, a joy that comes from within. It's what keeps you going long after the initial motivation fades, and it's a reward that a fixed mindset will never be able to experience. The journey toward a growth mindset isn't about perfection. There will be days when you fall back into old habits, when you doubt yourself, when that fixed mindset voice gets loud again. But the key isn't to never fall. It's to develop the resilience to get back up, to say to yourself, okay, that's fine. Today was a setback. What can I learn? And how can I get back on track tomorrow? This is the ultimate expression of a growth mindset. It is a lifelong practice, a commitment to becoming the best version of yourself, not because of some predetermined talent you were given, but because of the person you have the power to choose to become. You are the architect of your own mind. It's not about finding a magic bullet or a short. It's about understanding the science, making a choice, and doing the work. It's about choosing to say, I can't do this. So how do you make this a lasting change in your daily life? It starts with building simple, non-negotiable rituals. You can't just wish for a growth mindset. You have to train for it, just like an athlete trains for a competition. One of the most powerful tools is conscious reflection. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to ask yourself, what did I learn today, and what challenge did I face, and how did I respond? Just this simple act forces your brain to seek out opportunities for growth, rather than just cruising through the day on autopilot. You are actively building a habit of learning, and you are training your brain to see progress everywhere you look. Another powerful practice is deliberate self-talk. The voice of your fixed mindset can be a harsh critic. You can counter it by consciously praising your effort and your process. When you finish a tough task, don't just say, well, that's over. Say, I'm proud of myself for sticking with that even when it was difficult. You're literally reprogramming your internal narrative, replacing self-doubt with self-encouragement. This creates a positive feedback loop that makes it easier to take on the next challenge. And when you get stuck, remember the value of constructive feedback. A fixed mindset sees feedback as a personal attack. A growth mindset sees it as a gift. It's free information that can help you get better. When someone offers you a critique, don't get defensive. Instead, listen closely, ask questions. Say, thank you for that. How can I apply that next time? This simple change transforms a potentially painful moment into a powerful learning opportunity, further reinforcing your growth-oriented neural pathway. Ultimately, the goal isn't to be perfect. No one is. The goal is to build a life of continuous learning and evolution. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And every day, with every challenge, you get to choose. You get to choose whether you will remain a passive observer of your life, or whether you will become its active participant. You get to choose to be defined by what you can do today, or by what you have the power to become tomorrow. The fixed mindset is a comfortable cage, a place where you can hide from failure and responsibility. But the growth mindset is a key to freedom, an invitation to a life of endless possibility. It will be the most rewarding journey you ever take.
Because in the end, it's not about talent. It's about the person you choose to become.